running, never bothered about what could be coming. Every day we dance.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Thanks so much for tuning in for today's dinner and dessert recipe video. I'm so excited to share it with you. Before we get started, I just wanted to let you know that this video is a collab with my good friend Haley from Rob and Haley's channel. Rob and Haley's channel has tons of amazing content that I know that you guys will love. They do a lot of lifestyle and travel content, and they have some exciting things coming up. They just bought a house that they're going to be moving into and furnishing, and this little puppy that you see here, they just brought him home, and you're going to be seeing a lot more of him over there. So make sure when you're done with this, you head to the link in my description box below, head over, watch her video from today that we collabed together, and while you're there, subscribe to her channel and check out some of her other content as well. I know that you won't be disappointed. So the dinner recipe for tonight is a spinach and cream cheese stuffed chicken breast, and it is so delicious. So the first thing you're going to want to do is preheat that oven to 375 and then gather the ingredients that you are going to need. I'm showing the ingredients on screen here, but I also will have an extensive list in the description box below, including exactly how much of each ingredient you will need, and that will be an easy way for you to copy it down or print it out. So as you can see here, I am starting by mixing up my herbs and seasoning and setting it aside. That is going to be a half a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of paprika. Then you are going to add in a fourth of a teaspoon of onion powder. And then you're going to set that off to the side while you grab your cream cheese. If you have bricks of cream cheese, they come in 8-ounce packages. You're only going to need half of that for this recipe. This recipe is making 2 large chicken breasts or 4 small chicken breasts. So if you need to make more than that, you can easily double this recipe. So now we are going to start making the cream cheese filling. So I'm putting my 4 ounces of cream cheese in a mixing bowl, and then I am grabbing a 1/4 a cup and pouring 1/4 a cup of parmesan. I'm using grated parmesan. You're welcome to use fresh parmesan if you have that on hand or if you prefer it, but I had grated parmesan on hand, so that's what I'm using for today's recipe. Then you're going to take 1 tablespoon of mayonnaise. I'm using Sir Kensington, but you can use any kind of mayonnaise that you prefer in your mixture. So here you're just going to see me mixing up the seasonings that I had set aside earlier. Those I am still going to keep off to the side because we're not quite ready for them yet. And I am taking 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt and adding it into my cream cheese mixture. Next, you're going to want to get your spinach. Fresh spinach works best for this, and you're just going to want to chop up approximately 1 1/4 cups of spinach. I guesstimated here when I grabbed it out, and it actually ended up being the perfect amount. If you go a little heavy or a little light on the spinach, it's not going to make a huge impact on the recipe though. So now you're going to want to pour your spinach right on top of that cream cheese. That should at this point be getting to room temperature, and you're going to want to add in your garlic. I added a teaspoon of minced garlic. You're welcome to add more than that, and you're also welcome to use fresh garlic as well. I'm also going to add in 1/2 of a teaspoon of crushed red pepper. However, if you are not a fan of spice in your food, you are welcome to just skip adding the red pepper. Now we're moving on to the chicken breasts, which I am just taking a tablespoon of olive oil and rubbing it all over the chicken breasts. and then taking that seasoning that you set aside earlier and just rubbing it all over on both sides of the chicken breast, covering them completely so that they have a really tasty flavor. Now I'm grabbing that mixture that I made with the cream cheese and I'm throwing my parmesan in and getting ready to mix it up and stuff the chicken. As you can see, I'm cutting what we call pockets into the middle of the chicken, which is basically just slicing it almost halfway around so that you can fit the stuffing inside of it, but you're not completely cutting it in half. I'm taking a rubber spatula here and just really mixing in all of these ingredients together and making the cream cheese and spinach filling. And now I have grabbed my glass Pyrex that I am using to bake it in, and I am stuffing as much as I possibly can fit of this cream cheese stuffing inside the chicken breasts. And honestly, when you think that you've stuffed it enough, you can even fit a little bit more. So go ahead and stuff a little extra in there. You don't need to oil the pan at all because the oil is already on the chicken, so it will be completely fine in the oven without adding any extra oil or butter to the pan. Now you're going to go ahead and put your chicken in the oven and make sure you set your timer to 40 minutes, but also depending on your oven, you may just want to check your internal temperature of your chicken when it comes out and make sure that it is cooked all the way through, because sometimes I do have to add mine a couple extra minutes. And here we go, it's fresh out of the oven, and this dinner was so delicious. I promise, ask my husband, he ate it up in literally 5 seconds. This will be a crowd pleaser. And on to dessert. So for this dessert recipe, you're gonna go ahead and preheat your oven to 390 degrees, and then you are going to start preparing your ingredients for the most delicious gluten-free apple pie you will ever have. Now, you can make this recipe with regular flour, but if you do so, make sure that you don't add the xanthan gum because that is only necessary when making the gluten-free version of this recipe. Okay, so to start here, I have a bag of apples that we picked up from the grocery store, and these are smaller apples, so if you have larger apples, you definitely don't need to have quite this many, but I think we ended up having about 10 or maybe 12 apples total in this batch. I'm going to peel all of them. If you have an apple spiral peeler type of gadget, I am jealous of you. I used to have one and I don't know what happened to it, but I'm sitting here peeling the old-fashioned way. So now you're going to see me just cutting the cores out of all of the apples, and I'm curious, I only started cutting my apples this way sort of recently. I used to cut my apples straight down the middle and then kind of cut them into little wedges and then cut out the core, but a friend of mine showed me this way where you kind of cut in a square around the core, and I'm just curious, how do all of you cut your apples? Because until recently I didn't realize that there were so many different ways. As you can see, I'm slicing up these apples pretty thinly. I prefer to do it this way just because I like the flavor better after they are baked and they have been sliced super thinly. But if you like to do your apples differently for your pies and pastries, feel free to slice them however works best for you. Okay, but watching this, does anyone else wish you could cut this fast in real life? So now you're going to take 1 cup of water. You're also going to get your apple cider vinegar and take 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar and add it into your water. And then you're going to want to store this in the freezer until you're ready for it later. Then you are going to grab your gluten-free flour. This is just a simple 1-for-1 style gluten-free flour, and that is what I like to use when baking. You are going to need a sifter and a 1 cup measuring cup, and you are going to measure out your flour into your sifter, and you're going to need 2 cups of flour for this recipe. Once you've measured it out into your sifter, you can set your flour aside and you can start sifting it into your mixing bowl. Next, you're going to need a 1/2 teaspoon of xanthan gum, but only if you're making this recipe gluten-free. Go ahead and add it right on top of your flour or into your sifter. Now you'll take a 1/2 cup and you're going to measure out gluten-free coconut flour. This is a really great flour for a lot of different recipes, and I highly recommend keeping it on hand even if you're not gluten-free. And you'll see here that I just put a dash of sea salt in, and it's just a little bit of extra flavor. Now you're going to sift in 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar right on top of the flour mixture. And it might just be me, but the look of sifted powdered sugar and flour is so satisfying to me. Now you're going to take your cold butter out of the fridge, and you're going to want to use 1 3/4 sticks of butter, and you're just going to go ahead and cube it up into small little cubes like you see. And here comes the messy part. You're going to dump all of that cold butter right on top of your flour mixture and go ahead and stir it up and mix it up. Then you're going to want to take your hands and really knead the butter into the mixture until it starts to form small balls of dough. You want it to be really mixed in pretty well, but you don't want it to be a super smooth consistency. It's kind of just going to be a touch and feel type of game. So now you're going to take that apple cider vinegar and water mixture out of the freezer, and if there's a couple little ice chunks in it, that's okay. Just mix it in really well, and then you are going to add it to your dough mixture 1 or 2 tablespoons at a time, stirring pretty consistently as you add. At the end of this, you should have a really nice doughy consistency. So now you're going to ball up your dough into 2 different balls just because it will rest a little bit better that way, and go ahead and wrap them up into some saran wrap. I was actually out of saran wrap, so as you can see here, I am using Christmas cling wrap, but hey, whatever works, right? Then you're going to want to put these in the refrigerator for at least 1 hour. Okay, so now let's work on the filling. You're going to take 1/4 cup of powdered sugar and go ahead and sift it into a mixing bowl. Then you add in 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, as well as 1/4 teaspoon of ground ginger. Then you're going to want to add in your lemon juice. You can use fresh lemon juice as well. And I'm putting in 2 tablespoons of lemon juice right into the filling mixture. Now I'm dumping my apples right in on top, and using a little hack I have for mixing things, I'm just taking a pot lid and putting it on top and then shaking it up so that the mixture gets completely all over the apples. And this is a little extra touch I like to do, but I like to pour in some caramel syrup. You definitely don't have to do this, but it adds an extra little sweet flavor to the apple mixture that I absolutely love. Now it's time to roll out your pie crust. So make sure that you put enough flour down on the surface that you are going to be rolling it out on, as well as on your rolling pin, so nothing sticks. As you can see here, my dough was crumbling a little bit when I took it out of the fridge. It was in there for several hours and got a little bit hard, and I ended up needing to warm it up a little bit and sort of knead it between my hands before it was ready to be rolled out. Once I have rolled it out enough, I go ahead and put it in my pie dish and just sort of work around the edges with my hands, filling in any bare spots and breaking off any extra that I don't need around the edge. And I like to add this little flourish along the edge of the pie, just kind of pinching it with my fingers to make these little ridges. Now you'll see that I have 2 pies here because this recipe makes enough for 2 regular sized pies. And I am filling them with all of the apple filling and then cutting up a little bit of the leftover pie crust and just kind of adding some flourishes to the top. On this one, I added the crisscross pattern that you see here. Now you're going to want to take an egg and crack it into a bowl and just mix it up with your fork until it's slightly whipped. This is going to be an egg wash. It's just going to be brushed across the top of your pie just to give the crust an extra delicious flavor and a little bit of crispiness to it. Now you're going to place your pies into your preheated oven and go ahead and set your timer. I found that 22 minutes was perfect for mine, but you might want to start at 20 and just check in on it and make sure that it's not getting overcooked. And these pies were quite delicious. We really enjoyed them served with a little bit of ice cream and caramel syrup on top, and it was delicious. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. I hope that you'll enjoy these recipes. Let me know in the comments below if you try making them and if you like them. And don't forget to head over to Haley's channel as soon as this one finishes and go ahead and watch her dinner and dessert recipe video as well. Thanks so much, babes. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.